Most people favor some form of academic standards so that students and teachers know what's expected of them. But there are many questions about how to decide on standards for our schools and how to implement them. Should standards be national or local? And what are the trade-offs of each approach? Should parents be involved in setting standards, and if so, how? Should we require that students demonstrate they have reached the standards that are set? If so, how and with what consequences? Can the standards approach be extended beyond academics into other areas we expect our schools to address, like student behavior? To help you sort out what's most important to you and your neighbors about this topic, we've created a scenario that describes two contrasting superintendent candidates. Each has a different view on how schools should think of standards. Which would you rather see heading your community schools, and why? Superintendent Candidate A says the schools should rigorously enforce high academic standards for all its students, with competency tests every 3 grades that all students must pass in order to move on. There should also be clearly defined standards and consequences with regard to basic schoolwork skills, such as attending class, being on time, and handing in homework.
I think the kids are coming out of school without an education. I think they're passing the kids through school. They're just letting them by, and I think it's a disservice. They're coming out, they can't read. They don't know geography. They can't write a sentence. And they have to go out in the marketplace. And then when they get out there, they fail.
I think a lot of time is wasted all around because expectations are unclear. Students will definitely rise to your expectations. They will produce for you. They will take on challenges that they would never have attempted if they know that someone's there to help them work through the process.
I firmly believe that the core academics and the testing of those core academics is probably more important than anything else that gets done. That can drive self-esteem, a good reader who can read books, and a person who feels that they have a personal command of math, not just a calculator, is a person who is going to be a very productive citizen.
Finally, schools should have tough, clearly defined standards for maintaining classroom order and safety, with a zero-tolerance policy that expels violent students or those found with drugs and weapons.
When we were trained as teachers, we were trained to teach academics. We were not necessarily trained to deal with deviant social behaviors.
If any youngster would disturb this lesson, it would be criminal for the rest of the class. So my first reaction would be, he gets out of the class. Deal with him outside. The first thing, he gets out of the class.
Superintendent Candidate B says that while standards have a role to play in education, they can be overdone and end up creating as many problems as they solve. In this candidate's view, the pressure should be on the schools as much as the students. If kids attend class and make an effort, they shouldn't be punished for failing to meet academic standards by being left back when the fault might be the schools as much as the students. The schools should recognize that not all kids are going to excel in academic subjects like math, literature, and science. Schools may need to scale down their academic expectations for some students and help them find ways that they can feel successful as well.
Nobody can win all the time at everything, and I think that that's an underlying assumption to you either attain the standard or, well, then you fail. That's too harsh, and I don't believe that models life.
And if you pressure them, they may do it because you're pressuring them, but then when they turn around, they're not going to do it because they want to.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So I mean, to like, encourage them to go, to try a little harder, that's definitely needed. But pressure, I think, that's not good. No, it's high school students we're talking about. It's not an adult like ourselves.
If you take from the standpoint that all students have strengths, and if you can find those strengths and capitalize on them, then they all have something to offer. It's not just the kids that we traditionally think of as gifted and talented.
Again, we don't want to over-standardize. At the same time, we have to give teachers enough flexibility in order to be able to modify lessons to their own teaching styles, to their own personalities, as well as adapt to the students and to the environment that's in the classroom.
While all schools need to enforce some rules of conduct, they cannot go overboard setting up standards for things like behavior. The crucial thing is to keep as many kids in school as possible.
Our major question is, where are those 30% of the students who are not in school today because they're suspended? What are they doing? Where are they? When are they going to come back to school?
We're looking for ways that schools can deal with kids like this, ways that bring them into the school.
Superintendent A says, if you expect more, you get more. Schools should enforce high academic standards for all students, with periodic tests that students must pass in order to move on. And schools should maintain zero tolerance for violence or drugs. Superintendent B says, encouraging students helps, but too much pressure hurts. Not all kids are going to excel at academics, and schools need to provide ways that these students can be successful. The emphasis should be on keeping students in school and off the streets, not on suspending them.